Trixie, shut up. I'm fine. Now sit down and listen to me. I already told you this is important. She didn't look fine. She looked even worse than the last time I saw her. I nervously sat down. My eyes were drawn to the closed play. It was only a book, but it seemed to suck the air out of the room. I felt cold, confused, scared. Trixie, I finished reading it. It says so much. I can't. You need to read it for yourself to understand. It's just so... I can't explain. My head is a maelstrom. But Trixie, my point is, I'm in this play. Or, I mean, I can tell it's supposed to be me. Trixie, I am the heir to the broken throne. I am the heir to Carcosa. I was dumbstruck. What was Nikita going on about? She was a character in some old play, the heir to a fictional city? It was madness. Nikita, I think you need to sleep. You're not making any sense. How about you wait here? Trixie, you're not going to get me sectioned. Don't you dare accuse me of being sick or mad or... We both know I'm smarter than you, so shut up and listen to me. Her eyes bore into me with genuine malice. She was scaring me. Okay, I guess you can... I don't know. I'm gonna save again, maybe? Okay. I'm sorry, Nikita. I'll listen. She stood up, pacing for a moment, the book still in her hands. Eventually she stood over me, trying to look tall. I leant back a little, hoping if she got what she wanted, she would calm down a little. I am the heir to the Carcosa, Trixie. At first I didn't believe it, but all the signs are there. I've got this. I've had it since I was born. She pointed at the white freckles on her face. You recognize them, right? The Hyades, the constellations, the eternal prison of Carcosa. I gazed at Nikita's face. It was hard to be sure, but her markings were definitely familiar. I'd seen them before in my vision of Carcosa that night in my dreams. I see it. I mean, it's hard to tell. I don't know much about stars. That seemed to placate Nikita somewhat, but she seemed pretty unhappy with my lack of certainty. Look, Trixie, just read the play. It's not just the markings, there's so much. I noticed she didn't give any examples. Nikita dragged my desk over to the bed. It screeched across the floor, but I didn't want to stop her. She sat down next to me again and placed the king in yellow on the desk. Read, please. You'll understand. I looked down at the play. Ever since I'd first laid eyes on the book, it had been at the back of my mind. I wanted to read it. I carefully reached out and ran my hand across the cover. It was cold. Open it, Trixie. We don't have forever. Oh, open the Yellow King is my only option, so I guess we're gonna do that. A lot of time passed. Initially, I was disinterested. Nikita had obviously been skimping on sleep. A play written over a century ago did not reference her. It could not. Strangely, I remember little to nothing of the play's contents. It seemed to pass through my mind like wind. But when I remember little, in my mind I still see the black stars hanging in the sky, the rolling clouds breaking against the dread galleys of the Imperial Navy and the terrible remains of the broken throne. When Nikita saw me finish Act 1, she spoke for the first time since we had opened the play. Did you see it yet? Did you see me? No, Nikita, it's never any mention of an heir, or you, or anything. It's just... oh, jeez, I don't even know how to describe it. What is this? What are you saying? You can't see me? Can't you read? Give it back to me, incompetent. She wrestled me for my book. Or for the book. The desk toppled over in the struggle. Why was I tussling with Nikita over this book? I didn't want to read more, I wanted out. I let go. The second Nikita saw my grip loosen, she shoved me. I felt the tome slip away into her hands as I tumbled to the floor. As I fell through the air, I caught a glimpse of the first line of the second act. In that moment, I saw only the blur of ink scrawled onto a yellow page. I'm not even sure I truly read it, but an imprint on my mind, nevertheless. More than anything else that happened in the next few days, no matter how bad it got, nothing compared to this. If I could destroy all memories of this year, my new friends, my education, even my transition, I would. For the opening to the second act of The King in Yellow was terrible, unlike anything imaginable. I hit the ground with a thud, my head spun and my vision blurred. A feeling of dread, the likes of which I had never known, hit me like a gunshot. My head felt light, and as I raised my hands to indicate my surrender, they shook as if I was about to faint. What I read in that book stays with me even to this day, and I have no intention to repeat it here. Just rereading it bring me new, more terrible insights. That line changed everything. Nikita was right. The broken throne belonged to her. You believe me now, don't you, Trixie? Never doubt me again. Nikita grabbed a pair of crazy scissors off my desk and brandished them threateningly. I wasn't too worried. They were too bulky and plastic to make a proper weapon, but Nikita was still scaring me. Now get out of here. This is my room. I never should have left you read this. You don't deserve it. But this is my room. A small semblance of normality returned to Nikita's face. She seemed to have snapped out of her fury. I needed to use this chance to calm her down. Okay, I'm gonna get some water. I'm gonna drink some water, rather. I'm gonna ask her about the student union election. Nikita, wait, what about your election stuff? Running around with the weapon stacking people and... Ha 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 ha. You think I care about the student politics? You saw my calling inked into that page, Trixie, whether you want to admit it or not, you know. I've always known where I was headed. To Carcosa, to the Broken Throne. My head hurt at the mention of the Forsaken City. Surely Nikita couldn't truly intend to sit upon its throne. Look, Trixie, you had your chance to join me as my underling. But it's clear the decay of this world, its silly parties and fun, have ruined you. You could have shined as bright as the twin suns. Disappointing. She took off, running from my room with the play and her weapon. I was left alone on the floor, a trembling mess. I scrambled for the door and managed to lock it, my heart thudding in my chest as my mind tossed and turned like the dread fleet at anchor. I should have been more worried about Nikita. She was clearly a danger to herself and others. But all I could think about was the King in Yellow. The King in Yellow sounds like a painting in Ebe in the gallery. I only remember parts of the night that followed. My mind raced almost non-stop. Every now and again I'd fall asleep only to wake up elsewhere in my room. At some point my phone buzzed. Nikita was messaging me. Why didn't you believe me, Trixie? You had your chance to serve me at the foot of the Broken Throne and rule the city of decay. Why did you have to ruin it? The King's tattered hand will guide me, and me alone through the path you made for me. The twin skulls will guide me to the twin suns, the night that never ends, under the pale moon, under the black stars, under the bleeding sky. This is what I was meant to be. I was always meant to be, the ruler I was meant to be. Do not be scared, Trixie. You know this is right. You know this is the way things are supposed to be. You know I am kind. I will not allow the king to harm you when the gate opens. I promise. I continued in that manner for a long time, maybe hundreds of messages from Nikita, all completely incomprehensible. She seemed set on sitting upon the broken throne underneath the rotten spire of Carcosa. My phone started buzzing almost non-stop. Similar messages poured through from hundreds of unknown numbers. I tried to block them all, but more and more flooded through. Were these all coming from Nikita? Did she have friends, or was this something far worse? Nikita had a weapon. She was unstable. I thought about how she had spoken earlier that night. It had scared me. I needed help, but who would believe me? I didn't want to burden Belle with it. Well, Belle seemed a little too chill to be able to handle this kind of situation. No offense to her. There was the police. I didn't like them, but maybe they were my only hope. Is this line of dialogue because of the option that I picked earlier? The police aren't gonna help. They didn't help with a known suspected double murder. I sighed. The police had already ignored me when I reported possible murder evidence. Why would they care if someone stole a play script I didn't even really own and my crazy scissors would struggle to cut through cardboard? I gave up. This is my problem to deal with alone. Eventually I managed some small amount of restful sleep, an hour or two at most. We should tell Heidi! Is that an option? Eventually I managed some small amount of restful sleep, an hour- Oh, I already read that. When I woke I could remember what happened with Nikita all too well. There's not a ton of typos, but there's like more than you want in a game that's entirely dialogue. I could remember reading The King in Yellow. But after that, nothing. Parts of it seemed to be a dream or my imagination or something worse. There was no wall between reality and madness. I couldn't trust anything. But I knew Nikita was dangerous. And she was headed to the Broken Throne. Wait, what that meant I didn't know, but I had to stop her. If Nikita unlocked the white gate of Holly and walked through, or could walk back out. Despite my fatigue, I somehow remembered that I needed to change my estrogen patch today. Good for you! Take your meds. Desperate to remain some degree of normalcy, I decided to get on top of that. I'd been skimping on my anti-androgen tablets too. No wonder I was a mess. My hormones were all over the place. Yeah, take... Oh, fuck, I forgot my med... Trixie! Like, legitimately, I did that. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay. I'm gonna take a break until Malice gets back. Okay, you know what? This character's very relatable. Yeah, let's wait for Malice. I'm just shamed by this video game into taking my meds. Unfortunately, there is no music on this scene. I'm not sure. There was a line also where Trixie's like, you know, I would give everything up even transitioning. They might just mean stuff like that, where it's just like discussion of trans stuff and not an entirely positive light. Like, I mean, that's like a positive light, right? Like, it's a thing that is, even though it's really good, you would still give it up because of how bad the other thing is. But just, I think they might just mean that it's like, I don't know, like if you're particularly sensitive, it might be botherable. Botherable? Bother. That's not a word. It might bother you if you are feeling particularly sensitive about it at the time, I think is what they mean. Oh, I think because I was trying to say bothering, and I looked at Cody saying relatable, and my brain is like scrambled because I've read like 1,000 words, or like 2,000. No, way more than that. Just I've read a bajillion words and I'm dying. Okay, I was waiting for you, but you're back. So, yeah, I sound like Winnie the Pooh. Botherable. I can't do a Winnie the Pooh impression, but just imagine, I guess. I've been skimping on my anti-androgen tablets too. No wonder I was a mess. My hormones were all over the place. Do they have pro-androgen tablets? Or can you only have anti-androgen tablets? I downed one, hoping to keep my testosterone in check. With dark thoughts still swirling in my head, I managed to stagger over to my bathroom mirror. Yeah, I guess so. But I feel like T is like the equivalent to like estrogen, not necessarily an anti-androgen, though. I don't quite understand how hormones work. This is a B question. I'll ask later, because I don't think there's like a direct equivalent. I'm just wondering. Okay. With dark thoughts still swirling in my head, I managed to stagger over to my bathroom mirror. As usual, the edges of my patch were coated in gray gunk. Gross. I peeled the sticky patch off. As usual, I looked like shit. I needed a hot shower. Maybe it would wash away the storm of thoughts in my mind along with the gross eye gunk clinging to my face. The hot water made me feel a lot better. It was nice to just curl up and rest for a while. After the shower, I slapped on a new patch on my ear. Oh, that's what the little thing on her ear is. It's the patch. You're meant to put them below the waist, but I didn't want to shave an area for it, so. Oh. That's not quite, yeah. I did not know that. Why can't testosterone come in a pill? That's interesting. Oh, because if she puts it on her lower body, she's gonna rip a patch of fur out. That makes sense. I'm assuming I'll be fine. I haven't died yet. By the time I was ready to face the world, it was already pretty late. I needed to do something. After last night, the last thing I wanted was to be trapped inside my mind all day. Yeah. No way was I going to be in time for Belle's milk run now. Oh, do we have to do the milk run with her every day once we do it the first time? I decided to message her anyway, just in case. I was right, Belle had already started her trip to North Acres, but she said she could drop around later if I wanted. I certainly wasn't too sad about not visiting North Acres again, but it would be nice to just get outside. I took her up on the offer. Belle must have noticed I was feeling dour on my messages. She seemed to be trying to keep me pepped up. It didn't really work, but I appreciated the attempt. I had a few hours to kill before Belle arrived. I briefly considered using it to try and find Nikita, hoping desperately that last night had been a bad dream. Instead, I ended up arguing on cyberbat.net for a while. Some poser was trying to claim Cyberbat Digirice new uniform was out of character. Someone clearly hadn't watched episode 33, I gave them a schooling. It kept me distracted until Belle rolled up in her float, at least. You know, Trixie, I don't think getting into discourse online is good for you. She looked chirpy. Hey Trix, hop in and we can go drive around or something. First stop, Heidi's. We reached Heidi's shop to find Heidi jamming a broom into her vending machine to a chorus of crow screeches. Heidi looked up and gave us a grin. She stepped away from the vending machine and the bird sound stopped. Belle seemed unfazed. What's up, fucker? What do you want? Magazines, bitch! They high-fived. It was really weird. Hi, I'm also here. I waved timidly. I wasn't cool enough for these two. Hi, Trixie. How's not having a job working out for you? Haha. I'm joking. You need to concentrate on your studies, young lady. Belle bought a copy of Milk Jugs magazine. My parents had always told me I wasn't allowed to read that, so naturally I got Belle to let me flick through it. Oh, we're getting closure on Milk Jugs magazine from the first game. It's pretty disgusting. Oh, you're not gonna describe it? I know, but like, never mind. I want it. That's okay. Hey, Belle. I'm really sorry, but I can't make it to the bar tonight. I've got some stuff to deal with. Oh no, is Belle gonna be alone? Crowbar Inc. is giving me shit because I mailed them something they interpreted as a bomb threat. Which is bullshit, by the way. It was an arson threat. Fucking drama queens. They fucked me with that mass crowbar order and I won't let them get away with it. So yeah, I have to go, like, apologize to them and shit tonight. Their CEO is a bat. My ears perked up. I could do with a rich sugar bat. Dang, that's too bad, huh? Well, I'm sure we can hang out another time. We better get going, though. We're going on a fun trip. Sounds fun. I'll let you get on with it. You two have fun. She started jabbing her broom into the vending machine. The loud Why can't I read? She started jabbing her broom into the vending machine. The loud Kong started up again. I decided not to question it. I got back into the milk float, ready for adventure. Trixie has a thing for bats. Say, Trixie, how about we go visit some spooky places? She gave me a friendly slap on the back. Ow. Oops, hooves. Sorry, Trixie. Haha. You like spooky places though, right? You're doing your nerd ghost course at uni, right? Hey, it's not a ghost course, it's like history and stuff. It's important. It's just most of my work is ghost history. So where did you want to go? I want to study ghost history. Was that an option? Did I miss that? I asked nervously. Trixie is canonically into ghosts and monsters and bats, so yes, I think Trixie is canonically into goths. After last night's events, I wasn't sure I wanted to be near haunted places. After reading The King in Yellow, I knew that there were far worse places in the universe than Old Lady Whitetail's haunted pantry or wherever Belle wanted to go. Well, Wilted Rose Lake isn't too far off, and you can see Standing Stone Barrow from there. Maybe you'll spot Splashy the Snake and the Spooky Beast. That's two monsters to look for the price of one. You mean the Water Snake and the Altered Beast. Altered Beast. Welcome to your... Wait. Is it welcome to your doom? Like, welcome to your doom. I forget how that game goes. I mean, yeah, sure, sounds fun. I've wanted to check out that lake for a while, and maybe you're right, we might see those scary monsters. If it was sweet of Belle to want to cheer me up, even if it wasn't stuff she seemed to be all that into, I couldn't say no. We drove for some time making small talk. By now, my Nikita and the King in Yellow were pushed far to the back of my mind. It's welcome to your doom. Oh yeah, welcome to your... But he's like, welcome to your doom. Thank you, Pat. Why is it my Nikita? I don't think that's the correct word. Well, I like this place. Take a look, Trix. I think we're here. She was right. We drove alongside Wilted Rose Lake. In the distance, standing stone barrow dominated the skyline. There were all kinds of stories about this lake, and it only took one look to see why it had such an unpleasant reputation. Still black water filled what was once the rose-field copper quarry. Despite the summer breeze, the black mirror remained motionless, almost entirely without a ripple. The dark water was utterly impenetrable. Anything could have been lurking mere inches beneath its surface. The blasted shoreline and dead vegetation surrounding the water were almost as bleak as the lake itself. Oh, geez, I underestimated how creepy this place was. The lake? Yeah, I tend not to look at it too much when I drive past. That dark water gives me the shivers, you know. I'm sure it's nothing too weird, though. I heard the minerals and machine oil at the bottom are what makes it look so nasty, all mixed up in the water, you know? Oh, right, that would make sense. Wait, does that make sense? This place is a whole level of depressing. It reminds me of Swindon. It just feels wrong. I mean, I ain't no miner, but what else could it be? Wilted Rose water snake? Belle chuckled and parked the float next to a solitary picnic table. Quite who would want to relax here, I don't know, besides me and Belle, I guess. We sat down at the bench and took a look at standing stone barrow. It was pretty imposing. That hill's pretty impressive, huh? Fancy climbing it later? What? No way, is that even possible? It's gotta be at least 100 miles tall. Further research has shown me that it is in fact 311 meters, but I think my point was still valid. Haha, where's your pioneer spirit? Pioneer spirit? What does that even mean? Belle just chuckled. I still can't tell how much of what she says is serious. Despite the area's strange aura, I felt the calmest I'd been since I'd read The King in Yellow. I almost felt like everything would be alright. Thanks for bringing me here, Belle. It's super... I was going to say nice, but I guess interesting is a better word. That seems to be a running theme for places I visit. No worries, partner. I thought it would be nice to get you out of your room. You seem stressed. Huh? Why do you think that? Belle chuckled, although I could tell it was meant kindly. I mean, you've been fidgeting pretty much non-stop all day, and you keep staring off into the distance like you're remembering something. That, and you keep looking over your shoulder and talking under your breath. I hadn't realized I'd been doing that. How long had that been going on? Who else might have noticed? Sorry. I'm stressed, but I didn't want to talk about it. I couldn't. How could any sane person understand what it's like to have glimpsed the city under the sunken moon and the white of the pallid mask? I needed to say something. I knew Belle would worry more if I remained silent. I sighed, and there was only one thing I could talk about. I'd been avoiding the subject for a while, but Belle seemed like someone who might understand. And at least I'd not have to bring up Nikita's bullshit. I've been worrying about failing uni and having to move back home. What's wrong with home? Your parents not happy with you? No, I need space. Since I started transitioning a few months back, I just feel like I'm a screw-up making a mistake and forcing them to deal with the fallout. Which I know is like a super unhealthy way to think. It's just like, always hearing people say they knew they were trans their whole life makes me feel kinda fake, I guess. I think this is probably what the warning was for, in case anyone needs the warning again. I didn't always know this, and only putting the pieces together when I was 20 made me worry I was just imagining my crippling dysphoria. But I know I'm not, and the more I think about it, the more I realize I have always known. I just didn't have the words or knowledge to understand it. It's just a really hard feeling to deal with. I mean, fuck, I still doubt myself now, even though I'm not feeling awful for the first time since puberty. And if I'd known earlier, I could have started HRT before testosterone finished ravaging my body like a plague. I brushed the fur on my arm. It felt like wire. I'll never look or act like a real girl. I know that that's a shitty, invalidating thing to say. It only hurts everyone, trans and cis, and I hate myself for thinking it, but that's how I feel sometimes. So yeah, I'm avoiding home because I'm worried I've made a mistake somehow. My mom and dad are going to be ashamed of me for being so foolish. Especially since it looks like I'm probably going to fail uni. And like changing my name, it was super important to me, and I love my name. I love being Trixie. But when I started using it, I felt so ashamed, like I'd betrayed my parents. After years of support and care from them, something not everyone can get. To tell them that they were wrong about me, it just seems so cruel. I hate this feeling of guilt, like I've done something wrong all the time. Malice, do you need to like, if you want to take a minute, you can come back later. I don't want to make anyone feel bad. Okay. None of this makes any sense. I hate it. I don't know where all of that came from. I guess bottling up my emotions for the last decade had been a bad idea. It's okay, hun. I understand. What about you, Belle? Did you used to feel like this, or am I just sounding weird? It sounded like Belle had nothing to say for once. Felt a little awkward and wanted to move to a lighter subject. So, why is it called Standing Stone Barrow anyway? Kinda implies it's a barrow, like, full of dead skeletons. But the standing stone on top, yep. I wasn't too keen at staring at a hill full of a lot of dead skeletons. Well, how could they be live skeletons? It's just full of malices, I guess. Not too keen at staring at a hill full of a lot of dead skeletons, huh? I don't think Belle has mentioned anything about her identity. The only other character who seems like confirmed trans at this point would be Greg. I mean, I think that this game is written by trans people. That's why. And they didn't like state anything explicitly with Greg. They just used their pronouns, so I'm conjecturing. Not too keen on staring at a hill full of a lot of dead skeletons, huh? It's like she read my mind. I mean, yeah, because it's creepy. I mean, it's okay. It just takes away from the lovely view a bit. It's the circle of life, hun. I don't think that really means anything in this context. Belle shrugged. Nothing wrong with dead skeletons, hun. Besides, they're so old they've probably turned to dust by now. Belle is death positive. Yeah, Belle has horns, but I don't know which cows have horns. If that is a thing. I feel like some, like, female cows have horns. But I don't know that much about cows now that I think about it. I'm not a scientist, I'm afraid. I'm a milk woman. In the end, we never did spot the water snake or the altered beast. Once we were back at uni, Belle brought up the bar again. So it looks like no one is coming tonight after all. Heidi's busy with domestic terrorism or whatever that arson stuff was about. So was Greg. Busy, I mean, not committing crimes. And LaRose says she has to mark her students' work, although that's obviously a lie, and she's just in her room marking them all F- while she drinks wine and cries. Wait, LaRose is an art teacher? Oh dear. I guess she might not be an art teacher, but she's a teacher. So yeah, I mean, if you want to come along, feel free. She looked pretty desperate. I couldn't, though. I was still exhausted after last night, and that emotional outburst earlier had taken the last of my strength. I needed to get home and rest. I need to stop ignoring my problems and deal with Nikita. I'm gonna not make up an excuse because I feel really bad for Belle and I want to go with her. Sorry, Belle. I'll still need to get my work done, and I'm really tired. Me and my friend Nikita had an argument and it kept me up most of the night. I need to get home and sleep. An argument? Everything okay? Oh, I mean, nothing big, just a disagreement in literary interpretation. That was close enough to the truth. Aw, no. So that's what's gotten you so sour today. I can find some other stuff to do tonight. Or drink alone, both fun things. Well, I don't think you should drink by yourself. I hope you and your friend make up soon. You must care about them a lot to feel this torn up about a little argument. Belle was too nice. That night I jumped up the basement on Daffodil Lane. I was crumpled on the floor, blood stained the fur on my side and covered my hands. Through blurry eyes, I could make out Nikita. She was saying something to me, but her voice was too muffled and distorted to make out. She seemed smug, so no change there. After a seemingly endless monologue, she threw her hand skywards, and with a flash of white light and a splash of cold cloud spray, a white gate opened at the far end of the room. The white gate to Carcosa. I shivered as the chill rolled off Lake Alley. You know, I don't know. It could be a prequel. After giving me a last pitiful look, Nikita stepped through the gate, leaving me alone in the cold basement. For a moment, nothing happened. A strange calm came over me. This wonderful solitude was cut short. From the far white gate emerged the cloaked visage of the King in Yellow. Ooh! Okay. The tattered rags billowed in the increasing wind, floating like the tentacles of some terrible deep-sea creature. They stared ahead before peering down at me with a slow turn of their head. Looking right at me. Right into me. I blacked out. When I woke, I found myself elsewhere. At first I thought I stood on the shore of Lake Halley, but quickly I recognized Wilted Rose Lake. I was stood on a small island in the middle. Belle was next to me. Something emerged from the water in the distance. The water snake, I thought. I squinted, trying to get a better look. It had gone. I turned to Belle, about to say something when she jumped into the dark water. I yelled for her, but there was no answer. I stared out across the lake in fear. What could I do to save Belle? And then, as soon as I felt the cold touch of spray splash against my back, I turned. Before me stood the decaying spire of the stolen city. The twin lamps of Carcosa rose from the cold, dark clouds, whilst whispers of vapor fell from them like water. The city seemed almost to retract from me, a terrible screech emanating from its dread spire. I stepped back and screamed as I felt myself fall backwards into the icy water of Wilted Rose Lake. Dark liquid filled my lungs and silenced me as the cold hand of what I assumed was the king settled over my mouth. I realized that it was not the king, nor Carcosa, that had dragged me into Wilted Rose Lake. No, they'd pushed me and Wilted Rose away in fear. What was pulling me into the depths was far worse than the King in Yellow. I plunged back into consciousness and awoke, screaming and shaking. Based on the little eye journals in the first game, I believe that it was a sheep that somehow mutated to become like the other, like, anthro animals. That was at least what I was getting, and then I think the animal inside looked like it was maybe a fucked up sheep. There's also like I think it was in this game, someone talked about there being like a monster sheep that had 4 eyes or whatever. So I think that there's like a subplot of the sheep somehow becoming like the other animals. My eyes darted across the room, and I was alone. Everything was as it should be. As exhausted as ever, as was my life now. After last night's stream, I was more intent than ever to simply let my problems slip from my mind. I decided to message Belle. If I could get outside again, I could avoid dealing with Nikita for another day. Sorry, hun, I'm in a bit of a state today. I was up at the attic mouse all night, now I'm fucked, basically. I refuse to get out of bed. Good job, it's my day off. Oh no, I hope you feel better soon, I'll let you rest. Bill's typing was pretty impressive considering she was hungover, better than mine even when I was sober. I sighed, with nothing to distract me, there was nothing else for it. I'd have to face up to Nikita. Okay, this game seems to have 3 pathways corresponding with the 3 characters in town. Right on cue, there was a knock at my door. Trixie Glimmer Smith, open up! I gulped, just what I needed. She was knocking pretty loud. Maybe she was planning to break in and kill me with whatever weapon she'd gotten hold of today. I knew the knacking? What the heck accent is that? The knocking would attract unwanted attention if it continued. I couldn't bring more people into this mess. Nikita was my problem to deal with. I opened the door, accepting my fate. Trixie, have you seen my cardigan anywhere? As much as I loathe to admit it, you seem to have lost. You've been to Daffodil Lane, haven't you, Nikita? I could tell she had. She kept sniffing as if she was dealing with some sort of allergies. Something seemed to click in her, as if she only just remembered what she'd been doing all night. She'd totally forgotten about our fight? You might think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. Heh, you think you're pretty smart, don't you, Trixie? But no, I wasn't there, idiot. Look, Nikita, I'm going to try to stop you. I won't let you hurt yourself, and possibly me. Oh, Trixie, you're far too late for that. I already have the exact position of the intersection between our world and the White Gate. The book Reaching Other Worlds was most illuminating. The midpoint between the 3 standing stones in this county. The cottage on Daffodil Lane. I need only bide my time and wait. And then the throne will be mine. Wait. Silence, wretch. Is a normal thing to tell to people. I've already said too much. Suffice to say, my ideals have been vindicated. While you gawped at ghost hentai, I studied in the library. While you looked at hentai, I studied the blade! Your fate is of your own making, Trixie. Maybe you should just accept that I've won. I'll sit on that throne, not you. But I don't want to sit on the throne. Nikita, you need to. You're not making sense. Silence. Silence. You've read the King in Yellow. You've read what I have. You know what I speak is gospel. And the throne is mine. She took off, running back to wherever she came from. Not being hugely athletic, she seemed to run out of breath before the end of the hallway, where she slinked off, panting. At least this had confirmed it. Nikita had a plan. I sighed, realizing it was up to me to stop her. What was it Nikita had said about Daffodil Lane? It sat in the midpoint of the 3 standing stones. Is that true? It didn't sound at all right. I checked out the map on my wall. Nikita was right. The cottage on Daffodil Lane, the place this had all started, was the direct center of the standing stones. More or less, anyway. Maybe if you counted for tectonic movement and stuff. But it was close enough. I gasped. Nikita was right. She needed only wait and what? I realized I had no idea what she planned to do with this information. She had mentioned the library. Of course, Nikita was always in the library, so that was no surprise, but perhaps there was a way to stop her hidden in its thousands of books. It might be my only chance. I had to read books. I rushed straight to the library. There was no time to lose. It always shut early on a weekend. I quickly went through the shelves I thought might be relevant. Myths, local history, literature. I wanted to find the book Nikita had mentioned, Reaching Other Worlds. I'd never heard of it before, but it sounded like it would be of use to me too. Yeah, aren't you a history major? Like, you should... If you don't like reading, why did you pick history? Reaching Another World was Nikita's aim, after all. I found the shelf it should have been on, and there was nothing. Nikita must have come here first and taken it so that I couldn't find out how to stop her. I panicked. If she was actively trying to stop me, there was nothing I could do. Nikita was smarter than me and driven like one possessed by her obsession with that cursed play. My eyes remained locked on the spot the book should have been, and I felt my body grow numb. Was I too late? I could see her even now in my thoughts, the book ablaze as Nikita continued with her evil plotting. The gnarled hand of the king guiding her to the decaying imperial palace of Carcosa and the broken throne. I realized I was crying. And then I realized I was looking directly at the book. It was 3 places over from where it should have been. She must have misshelved it! This is why misshelving is the enemy. Must have been misplaced by an uncaring student or busy librarian. Trembling, I reached for the book and softly caressed its spine. It was real. I took it from its shelf and wiped the tears from my face, ashamed. Glancing at the great clock at the entrance, I realized I had been stood in the same spot for close to an hour. Oh, Trixie. Something was horribly wrong with me. I dropped my collection down on the I dropped my collection down on the secluded desk. Half of this stuff didn't seem at all that relevant, but it was better to be thorough. I thought I'd better skim the books and work out which I had time for before I actually started reading it. I wouldn't have time for all of them. I checked the clock. There was about 5 hours left until the librarians would kick me out. Oh, okay. Let me drink some water. We can pick one of these books. I should do Reaching Other Worlds, huh? Reaching Other Worlds seemed to be based on the Dark Age Grimoire? I don't know how the fuck you're supposed to pronounce that word, to be honest with you. Written by a bird scholar at the tail end of the age. I didn't save, but I noticed that there was an option to stop reading, so I think I can pick more than one thing. Nikita seems set on reaching Carcosa. Grimoire? How do you pronounce O-I-R-R-E, though? War? Yeah, that's what I was confused about. It's a grimoire. Okay. Nikita set Nikita seemed set on reaching Carcosa. I thought this might help me understand if that was possible or actually planned on achieving it. Grimoire. Can someone make like a supernatural detective game called Grim Noir? Does that already exist? Someone should make that if that's not a thing. I'll make that if that's not a thing. It was short, I would only take an hour to read. Let's read Reaching Other Worlds. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna pick, I guess, some number of these books to read. Endless worlds weave and twist through reality, unreality, and the forbidden places between. Happy to report someone has already done that. Excellent. Maybe I'll play that, since I guess I'm on the same page as whoever did that. Only at the points where these strings draw close can one pass through to the other side. Powerful psychic beacon is required to pull the two worlds taut and intertwine them for long enough for a crossing. Oh, it's a book series, though. Okay. Nice. Bleak Wind Spire is said to be the brightest of these beacons, at least on our world, but its current ruined state is useless. The carrion crows of the Blackwood of Brennenburg used their own natural psychic influence to shield themselves from the horrors of the Brennenburg succession wars. For the plain walkers of Aboneth, in the ancient times, powerful psychic crystals were most commonly used in pairs. Oh, that's what Tabitha has. Singularly, they could bind the worlds, but when paired would nullify each other, preventing others from traveling to or from the area. It is said that this is how the Court of Despair remained hidden forever in their Cathedral of Teeth. Can I go to the Cathedral of Teeth? That sounds like an interesting place. I gasped. The librarian shushed me. I knew Nikita wanted to reach Carcosa, but I now realized quite how close she might be. All of these materials were easy to acquire, except for the Psyker crystals. But I now knew where Tabby's missing crystal was. Nikita had taken it. Why are they... No, they're Psyker crystals. I'd always assumed they were phony glass toys, but now... The second crystal would create dissonance with the first. If I could just get hold of one, I could prevent Nikita's vigil from working. I began hurriedly messaging Tabby. Hey Tabby, you there? Hi Trix. She keeps them in her bra. Oh, okay. You've got a spare Psyker crystal? I have bad energies and it might help me? XD, you don't need it to end everything with a question mark. Yeah, though, you can borrow one. My energies are balanced right now and the moon's eye is staying closed for a while, so I don't need to stop it watching me. I can slide it under your door if you want. I'm going out for a few days to stargaze on the Isle of Wight and talk to some sheep friends, smiley face. We haven't even, like, seen Tabitha. Can we meet her? No, I don't think we've met her. We've texted her, and there was a discussion about who she is with Nikita, but we haven't actually seen her. Yes, please. The fact that her nickname is Tabby makes me assume that she's a cat, but that might just be because of the pun. Sorry, Tabby, I better get back to work. Thank you so much. Talk to you when you're back. I put my phone away without checking for a response. There was no time right now, but at least I was making some progress. Things didn't seem as hopeless. She's probably a bird. That would be my second guess. I checked the clock. There was about 4 hours left until the librarians would kick me out. I'm gonna save now. Let me at least look at the summary for this. A cursed play. A study of the King in Yellow seems to be a thesis of some kind, but it definitely looked relevant. I kind of suck at reading Wow. That was like such a failed attempt at reading a word. I kind of suck at reading academic texts, so I know it would probably take 3 hours for me to read even though it was short. Okay, let's not spend time doing that then. I've only got 4 hours. What's this? The Wilhelm Notes was a collection of notes written by the infamous Grand Inquisitor Wilhelm, traitor to the Inquisition and supposed author of the original transcript of The King in Yellow. It was a pretty poor translation, and the original text was near incomprehensible to begin with, so despite its short length, reading this would take about 3 hours. Okay, let's see what wouldn't take 3 hours. Okay, what about this? The Great Crusade looked like a rather dry history book. I knew most of the stuff already. I don't know why I picked it up. It was bulky and it'd probably take 2 hours to read. I'm realizing also that some of the things I think are typos, I think is just the particular way that the person who wrote this game speaks, and I'm just not British. Rosefield Quarry, Bluefield's Mysterious Lake, was all about Bolted Rose Lake. It was written in the 80s, a few years before the story of the water snake got popular, so the back of the book couldn't reference it. While I couldn't quite place it, something about that place stuck with me. Maybe I was being paranoid, but I felt it might have something to do with things. The book could probably only take about 2 hours to read. You know what? I will read this one. I'm gonna drink some water. To be honest, I've been reading since 8, so the fact that I haven't died yet is, like, impressive to me. Rosefield Quarry, Bluefield's Mysterious Lake. Once the largest quarry in the south, Rosefield Quarry supplied copper to the whole world and even beyond during the moon landing. In 1965, drilling began at the bottom of the quarry to test for natural gases. Borehole R12 was planned to be several kilometers deep. I read that weirdly. Shortly before the borehole could be completed, what appears to have been an industrial accident caused the previously rerouted Ash River to return to its previous course, directly into the quarry. The fast-moving river quickly washed away much of the east side of the quarry, making escape from the bottom of the basin impossible. The quarry's communication equipment was destroyed, preventing any calls to the authorities for several hours. The remnants of Rosefield Village were woken by the sound of cascading water, and emerged from their houses to find a vast black lake where the pit once was. The sudden flooding of the quarry remains the greatest tragedy in modern Blue Hill history. Almost 100 workers drowned, and many tons of machinery was trapped beneath the water. Toxic industrial chemicals and gas from the recently opened borehole leaked into the water, making it impossible to dive in. The combination of these chemicals appeared to be what has given the lake its dark appearance and responsible for the death of the rose field surrounding it. While officially the disaster was caused by improperly built rerouting dams, some have suggested the flooding may have been intentional. There's little to support this claim. The local village, Rosefield, was also abandoned shortly after. The same chemical and gas leaks which give the lake its dark appearance appeared to be causing health issues in the community. Dozens of residents reported deteriorating mental health after the incident, sickness, and exhaustion. Within 2 years, the village was empty, with the local council rehoming its residents across the country. Urban explorers often break into the now fenced-off village to earn street cred. These explorers often go missing, presumably falling into the water in a confused hallucinogenic state similar to the symptoms seen in villagers shortly before the evacuation. So that's the weird, fucked up pentagram house. Few survivors made it out from the inside of the quarry, and those who did were near rabid. Doctors suggested it was a mixture of trauma and extreme proximity to the gas leak. Most would recover from their crazed state in the next decade. One would go on to become one of the leading Rosefield truthers and support the claim that the flooding was intentional and ordered. Strangely, he also maintained that this was the correct decision. It was an interesting read, but not hugely helpful. I checked the clock. There's about 2 hours left. I've read Cryptids of the South before, but I thought it might be helpful. It wasn't a very long book, so it'd probably take only an hour. Bluefield's County Myth seems to be a brief rundown of some local folklore. Pretty short, so we'd probably only take about an hour. Okay, there's 2 hours left, so... Oh, I guess look. Okay, so the Wilhelm notes there's not time for. The Great Crusade we've already read, and we already know everything that's boring. This there's not enough time for. Crypt of the South we've already read. I guess I'll read this one then. North Acres and the Dark Age. Like much of the country, Ovington suffered terribly from the famines brought on by the Dark Age. Their troubles were short-lived, however, after the arrival of a strange guest. Not much is known about this mysterious visitor, but the locals supposedly used their help to contact a strange and ancient entity of the woods, the antler tree. After this, their woes were no more, and they waited out the end of the Dark Age in comparative comfort, a rare occurrence in those terrible times. Did the antler tree bless the villagers of Ovington with a successful harvest? Unlikely, given the village imported all of its food. Did it simply gift them with food? Maybe. Was this entity simply a story to cover up Ovington's true evil, preying on travelers and raiding nearby towns? Probably, according to most scholars. But even so, the area remains shrouded in secrets. Perhaps there is more to it than meets the eye. The tale of the man and the witches. The local man wished more than anything to be beautiful and strong so that he could woo local damsels. He sought out the Salt Sisters of Portsmouth. But the witches only... Okay, that's a pun. But the witches only laughed and cast a cruel spell on him. The witches that summoned evil void wraiths to chase the man away into the wilderness where he succumbed to the terrible hex. The witch's terrible hex. Some say this man would go on to become the terrifying Mr. Sprangy. That's a ridiculous name. But this is obviously untrue, as Mr. Sprangy is way too fucked up to be in a silly kid's story. The screaming sewers of Bluefields Town. Right. The Bluefields Town was briefly re-established as the administrative center of the country under the Brandenburg dynasty for several years while London was rebuilt after the Inheritance War. Several buildings from this period remain, sporting classic Brandenburg architecture, the town hall, gallery, and flower gardens being particularly distinctive examples. Of course, not all the Emperor's influence on the town was positive. Many rebellious locals were dragged to the city dungeons during his brief reign here. Screams and wails were said to emanate from the town's sewer systems as terrible torturers pried the poor prisoners for information or sometimes merely for fun. Shrouded in mystery, the dungeons were eventually unearthed in 1956, but were soon sealed with concrete. The council did not give a reason why, but we can assume they were a structural weakness beneath the town. Though some say on cold winter nights, screams can still emanate from underground on lonely streets. The King in Yellow. I'm gonna drink more water. This section is killing me. The infamous Wilhelm is said to have first penned The King in Yellow in a manor just outside Bluefields Town. The manor burnt down in the late 1800s, so any evidence of this has long since been destroyed. The play's ties to the country do not end there. Copies of the play are found more frequently here than anywhere else across the world, with the notable incident being its discovery in Bluebell's University Library. The dean, a superstitious fellow, ordered it burnt unopened when a student brought it to him. Said student was also expelled in mysterious circumstances. The dean was fired soon after, apparently for the unfair expulsion. The student disappeared before they could be re-inducted into their course. It was an interesting read, but not a particularly helpful one. I think that I've only read one thing that we were supposed to read, so whoops. No way would the dean expel Nikita. She was the only thing keeping us in the league tables. Besides, at this point, I didn't think Nikita would care. I checked out the clock, which there was about 1 hour left. I mean, I don't have time to do anything other than read this one. I'm gonna just summarize this one in case there's anything interesting, because I think it might just be jokes, and my voice should rest for a minute. Mr. Sprunky is fucked up. We don't know what's going on with this guy. Yeah, that was not a good idea. That was a waste of time. Okay, question. Do we want to go back? Because I think after the first thing I read, they were completely useless. What do you guys think? Okay. I think I want to try the cursed play. I read the Villenheim notes. I read that first, and then I saved, and that one I think was the only thing I read that was actually useful. Thesis by Daisy Tell, Bluebell University, 1997. Oh. Yeah. No, because reading that prompted me to text Tabby, which is why I think that was correct. Oh. I went back and now I need to click on this again. In this thesis, I will argue that the mythos surrounding the King in Yellow has intentionally evolved to play into a pearly capitalist creation. Oh, I don't think this is helpful. The original play, supposedly written by the disgraced Inquisitor Wilhelm in the late 1700s, details the decline of an ancient star empire ruled from the ivory throne of Carcosa at the hands of the titular King in Yellow. Of course, it's difficult, if not impossible, to know any detail about the play for sure. Our only source on the original text comes from Wilhelm himself in his infamous notes, and it is well known that he was quite mad by the time these were written. Readers of the play often talk of the yellow sign, a sigil spoken about in fear throughout these sources, the most notably in the accounts of Polo Palacio. This sign is supposedly used as some kind of a mark, branding those who know the play or drawing new readers to it. Yeah, this is a little, like, too well-written, TBH. Commonly, this is depicted as a simple eye design along pupil extended outside the bounds of the eye itself. Some depictions are more abstract, although these seem to be in relation to a specific 1876 printing of the play, which is widely regarded as fake. Of course, no real evidence exists for these strange properties, and it is likely in addition to the play's mythos intended to further build its reputation and desirability. Henry Goldsmith argues that the play exists purely as an elaborate money-making scheme, with each terrible new rumor adding to its value. This seems a likely confusion. The thesis continued in this vein for some time. I wasn't sure I agreed with this conclusion, I didn't really learn much. Okay, I'm going to just keep, I'm gonna find the other important things, I think. But I feel like we've read most of these. Maybe only one of them was relevant. Because we read this. We read that. We read that. We read that. This is one we haven't read, and I don't think this is important, so I'm just gonna look at it. This looks maybe important. When the world shook and found itself plunged into darkness during the early Middle Ages, many societies were desperate to find some way to end the ash storms and earthquakes that now plagued them. Queen Marigold Alesia Dawnsight claimed to have identified the source of this evil and the terrible Ash Prince, a demon living deep in Siberia underneath the fabled City of the Stars. This claim marked the beginning of the Great Crusade, the largest population movement in the pre-Great War history, with over 1 million soldiers, craftsmen, lords, ladies, inquisitors, and bards marching together. Their cause was simple: to defeat the demons destroying the world. While it is now known that the Great Crusade failed, victims of Siberia's harsh winters and harsher ash storms, toxic clouds, and earthquakes, this was the time of ray of hope for the world's population. Led by Queen Marigold Alesia Dawnsight, the crusade started here in Britain, moved through Frankland, Imperial Brandenburg, and met with the Eastern armies from across Asia at the mouth of the Black River in modern Ukraine. Why do some of these countries have pretty much the same names as normal and some of them don't? This host would then travel through the eastern steppes with the Azure Horde, and hundreds of additional steppe peoples would join. With the global bird network in disarray due to the ash storms, the last contact with the outside world came a year after meeting at the Black River. Queen Marigold reported on endless leagues of ash covering Earth, black skies, and terrible malformed beasts. The Great Crusade was never heard from again, but archaeological evidence suggests the bulk of the force perished in freezing conditions within a few weeks of this message. Evidence suggests fragments of the host broke off and made their retreats across South Kazakh, but were unable to escape the 1,123 ash storms that would engulf much of Asia. I like that the other countries get to be mentioned by country, but if it's Asia, it's just the entire fucking continent, apparently. Sounds like the English. Anyway, sorry. An unnecessary drag of this fictional book. How far into Siberia were those who remained loyal to the cause reached is unknown. Any who reached the City of Stars likely perished from the toxic fumes which engulfed the area. The so-called Ash Prince remained undefeated, but the Dark Age would end naturally almost 200 years later in 1302 when the Siberian supervolcano finally returned to its dormant state. Okay. I think the only thing that was helpful was actually the thing that we knew we had to read. Internet back at my room, I just needed to sleep. This week was killing me. When was the last time I had slept properly? My fucking, like, throat is tired. I walked through my door and almost tripped over something. There was a little velvet bag on the floor, someone had slid it under my door. Oh great, has Nikita been sneaking anthrax into my room or something? I nervously picked up the bag and was relieved to feel a hard crystal inside. This must be Tabby's sacred crystal. Oh, thank you, Tabby. You're a lifesaver, possibly literally.